we're gonna continue with the function called swing. But before we jump into this function, I'm going to show you what is a spring joint in Unity. So come back to Unity, create two boxes and add rigid body to both of them. For the top one, kinematic is true. As I told you in the previous video, if you want to have a physics in any object into your game, you have to have rigid body. Even if you forget to add the rigid body, if you add the spring joint, it gives you rigid body because all of the joints and the springs work with physics. So we added the spring joint on the box on the bottom. Now you can connect these two boxes together by getting the rigid body of the other one and drop it into the spring connected body. Now you can hit play to test this spring joint. By default it gives you a spring joint, but this is not what we want. And if you're curious about what are these variables in a spring joint, you can just play with these numbers to figure out what are they. So let's go ahead and make these spring joints into the code. Go to the swing function and let's get started. First we need a spring joint, so make a variable and call it spring joint. Now in the swing function, we are going to add this spring joint to the player. But right now we don't have any access to the player, so we have to create another variable of the game object and add the player on it. As you know me guys, I'm going to use attributes a lot to just make the code cleaner. So make a header and call it player info. I'm just gonna move them a little bit to be more organized. And also you can make another header called gun info. Everything is organized right now. That's the time to create your game object for the player. Now we have the access to the player game object, so we can add any component that we want. In this point we are going to add a spring joint to the player. So the first variable for the spring joint, which is really important, is rigid body of the object that we collide with, so the bullet has this information. When the collision happens, the bullet knows what is the object and what is the rigid body. So we go with public game object. I'm gonna make it collision object, and when the collision happened, this collision object is equal to collision.gameObject. So in the swing we have an access to the bullet script, so we can use that variable. So a spring joint.connected body is equal to the rigid body of the object that we collide with bullet, that we can get it with bullet script.collisionObject get component rigid body. And I did a mistake here, this is connected and it's not connected anchor, it should be connected body. In a spring joint there is a boolean called auto configure connected anchor, so you have to set it to false because we are going to set the anchor and a connected anchor manually. For now I'm going to set these two variables, the anchor and the connected anchor, to 0 because if I explain what are they right now it's so complicated, so I'm going to run the game and show you in the game what are these two and how we can manage it after. And for the maximum and minimum distance, we have to first calculate the distance between the player and the collision point. Vector3.distance, which gets 2 position and it gives you the distance. So we need the bullet and the player position. And it's better go to the player information and get the transform of the player. Or you can go with gameObject.transform. Now you can cache this value in the start function. Go with player transform is equal to player.transform. We could just use player.transform everywhere, but I did it like that. Now in the distance parameters, we can just put the position of the player and the position of the bullet, because we are going to connect to the bullet at the end. Now we have the distance between the player and the bullet, so we can calculate the maximum and minimum for the spring joint. A spring joint.max distance equal to the distance time, I go with 0.9. And if you're using floats, you have to put f right here. And for the minimum, just duplicate it, change it to minimum distance, and then change this number to 0.1. For the damper, I go with 10. And the next value is the spring. Guys, before we go to this one, just come back to Unity, I'm gonna show you something. Go to the player, which is XR origin. Right now, our player doesn't have rigid body. So our game is based on physics, so I'm going to make everything with a real number. So our player will be about 80 kilograms. So in the mass variable, you can put 80. Now we need a collider, otherwise we're gonna go through stuff. I'm going to add this collider in the children of this XR origin, because we can change the position of this collider easier. You can have the capsule collider in the player collider and you can change the position very easy. And also try the camera be on the head. Make sure guys don't change the player position, just change the player collider, which is a child of player. And the next thing you have to do, go to the X origin. I forgot to do it. Freeze the rotation on the X, Y, and Z axis. Otherwise, your player is going to rotate crazy and you're gonna get the headache after right away. I don't know why this one is still 1, but again, I'm going to change it to 80. Okay, come back to the script. We are going to complete our code. So the damper, change it to 100 because we increased the mass. And for the spring, put it like 300. I found these values gives you a very good feeling while you're swinging around. But again, you can change these numbers to whatever you want. Now we are going to call that swing function when we collide to one object. The first thing that we need to have an access to the gun script to call the function. So make a public gun variable. So when the collision happens, we are going to call that function right here, gun.swing. That's it. Now come back to Unity, rotate the map because I want to swing the other direction. This box is in front of me, so I rotate it. And that's the time to see what we made. Grab the gun and hit the wall and null reference error. So we forgot to connect those links between the gun and the bullet, and also the player, and a lot of stuff. So go out of the game mode, go to the gun script, and you will see this player transform. We shouldn't see it right here because we cache it into the code, so we can make it private. You can just delete the public and save and come back to Unity. And you'll see this one is going to be disappeared. Okay, perfect. Now we just need to grab the X origin and drop it right here, which is our player. And after that, go to the bullet. And as you see, the gun is empty. This collision object is the object that the bullet is collided with, which is public, and it should be public because in the gun script we are using it. Drag and drop the gun and come back to the script. Now we want to hide it from inspector while it is public. Now we can use another attribute called hide from inspector. And if you wonder what are these attributes and how they work, I can make another tutorial and we can make our own attributes. But now come back to Unity and hit play to see what is going on. Okay guys, grab the gun and hit the wall. When I grabbed the wall, I felt like I was moving a little bit forward, but that's why in the code we made like 90% the max distance. That way it forces you a little bit to the point. So if you grab the wall 2-3 times, you will see you can fall beautifully. And now we have the swinging part, but there is a small problem here. When we create this spring joint, we don't destroy it. So we have to destroy it somewhere, otherwise we're gonna create a lot of spring joints. If you go to the player, you will see we added a lot of spring joints to this player. So there is a problem that we have to fix it into the code. So when we release the gun, when we release the trigger, we have to destroy this spring joint. So let's go ahead and fix this one. So when we release the trigger, this cancel fire is being called. So this is the point that we destroy our spring joint. And if you don't know where we call this function, just watch the previous video. Okay guys, save and come back to Unity, hit play, and now you will see the spring joint disappear when we release the trigger. But right now our spring joint is not that much strong to force us to go to the wall. So I'm just gonna do it manually, just gonna grab the position of the player, I'm gonna move it a little bit forward on the edge, and I'm gonna try it one more time to grab the wall. Now you're gonna see I'm gonna fall through the air beautifully. Now swing around, and you can also release the trigger and try to grab the wall one more time, and the feeling is crazy. As I told you guys, in the spring joint we have connected anchor that I told you I will talk about it after, like in the game. You see this brownish box in the middle of the wall? This is the center of the object, and also we are swinging from this point. And if you remember guys, in the code I set the value of the connected anchor to vector.0. This connected anchor is the local position of the object. So in order to get the local position of this collision point, we have to use a function called inverse transform point, which gets the global position and it gives you the local position. We are going to use this one. Come back to the swing function in the gun and we are going to change this connected anchor. But first we need to save the global position of the collision point in the bullet script. So in order to get the position of the collision, We can go to onCollisionInter and get the point by using collision.context, which is an array, but we need to get the first one dot point. The reason that this one is an array because when we collide with something, maybe a lot of part of the objects collide to the other object. That's why they put it in an array. But we get the first one. So we have the point that we want and we have to save it in a vector3 variable. So make one and change the name to heat point. So heat point is equal to collision.contact.point. So when the collision happens, we save this into hit points. So come back to the gun in the swing. Now we can use that function called inverse transform point, which gives you the local position for the connected anchor. So it works like this. First, you have to put the object that you want to have the local position of it. So the information is in the bullet. So we go with bullet script.collisionObject.transform.inverse transform.point. And here we put that heat point. As heat point is a public variable in the bullet script, we can go with bullet script.heatPoint. Now come back to Unity and hit play. And I'm going to show you what exactly is happening right now. So grab the gun and hit the wall. So I'm going to take out of my VR, I'm going to show you what is happening. Now you will see these spring joints connected points. It's close to the point that we hit the wall, which is totally acceptable. This single part of the code, I mean this inverse transform point, if you don't know this exists, it's a bit hard to know what should you do. And now you know and you're good to go. So you can play right now with this grappling gun, which is fun, and you can put a lot of boxes and you can grab them. But before we make those boxes, I'm going to fix a small problem, which is the collision between the gun and player, because when you move the gun and you bring it to your body, it forces you back. So we're gonna fix that one. So we need 3 layers for the gun, for the bullet, and the player. So go to the layer window and make these 3 layers: gun, player, and the bullet. Or you can make just one layer and put everything in that layer. Now go to edit, project setting, physics, and scroll down and cancel all of these collisions right here. So in here we can say like gun and player and bullet, they never collide to each other. Close the window and come back to the bullet, change the layer of the bullet, change the gun to gun and the player to player. And make sure you change the layer of children. Now try it one more time, grab the gun and try to collide to your body. Okay guys, the problem is fixed, now we can create our own map. As we're going to have 2 guns in our game, so I'm going to make a prefab of these gun and bullet that we made. So go to the resources, create another folder, call it prefabs. Go to the hierarchy and create an empty game object. Drag and drop the gun and bullet both together into this game object. And grab the game object and drop the whole game object into the prefab. And that's how you make a prefab. So this is our prefab, so we can just duplicate it. And now we have 2 game objects into our scene. And now you can change the position of this game object a little bit to see them better. Now we have 2 guns, hit start to see how does it look like, these 2 grappling guns. And I feel like we have to change a little bit this spring joint. So go to the swing part and the spring, change it to 500. And the max and min distance, change them to 6.6 and that's it. Just save it and come back to Unity. Hit the start one more time and start to swing around, guys. There you go. I'm really proud of you guys, but we are not done yet. Sorry for that, but we still have one problem. You see, when I hit the wall with the grappling gun, I stick to the wall and I can't get rid out of it. And you're gonna be like, what is this problem again? To fix this problem, guys, I made another tutorial, and I'm just kidding, guys. I'm gonna fix it right now. Go to the bullet script and add this gun.shootIt into this if condition. Now play the game one more time and grab the guns and start to swing around. Okay guys, I'm gonna talk to you for a sec. If you're watching this video till now and the whole series and you don't like and subscribe, you're a gas station with no fuel. Okay? You're a man with no soul. You're a girl with no bra. Actually, that's cool. No, you're not that one. You're a phone with no battery. Okay? That's it. It's unforgivable. Yeah. I'm just kidding, guys. I hope to see you guys later, and I hope you enjoyed this one. We're gonna make a lot of stuff and give you more motivation, guys. Okay? Take care, guys. See you later.